Hey everyone, welcome to my final play. We're on location at the Liberty Arena in Williamsport, PA, and I am here with a special guest today, former professional soccer player, Sam Lofton. Sam, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is round 2, by the way. We'll explain that later. And as far as the sport of soccer, we're going to get right into where it all started.
Yeah, so it started in my front yard when I was like 3 years old.
Yeah.
I had an older brother and sister. We were all within a year of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started playing, and I wanted to be just like them.
Obviously.
Yeah, of course. So I started playing with them, and my mom was just super supportive of all of us. She she never played, but she bought a whole bunch of VHSs and learned the game and then would teach us. And I attribute a lot of my success to her. She also bought soccer nets for our front yard, put floodlights on the house so we could play at night. She even bought a lot of artificial turf and put it inside one of the open rooms in our house so we could play in the winter. And that was it. I just fell in love with the game and I started playing every single day. I remember telling her when I was 7 that by the time I was 8 I was going to juggle 100 times, and I did on my 8th birthday juggle way over 100, and no one my age was doing that. Everyone was really just kind of blown away. And this was right around the time that the 1999 women's US team won the World Cup.
Yeah.
And I think that this was so influential for a lot of girls in my generation, because girls just at the time especially didn't really grow up seeing professional women's athletes. So people will often ask me when did you know you wanted to be professional? And I was I really didn't, because I didn't understand that concept. I knew from around that time, age 7, that I wanted to be a really good soccer player, but what that meant, I didn't know, you know. I really just started playing every day. I had these videotapes that would show you what foot skills to do, and I was obsessed. I did it every day. Doesn't matter rain or shine, I was playing. And then it really paid off. By the time I was 9, I was getting just a lot of interest. I was too young, but national team coaches knew my name. People knew Sam Lofton in Eastern Pennsylvania.
Right. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You're in a market at the time of Philadelphia, and the soccer world is huge. Definitely had that opportunity, but definitely had the passion as well.
Right. Yeah.
So let's keep going then. Where did that continue?
So originally I was from the suburbs of Philadelphia. Just a massive there was just so many teams that you could be on. Everyone was playing, and so I kind of followed suit. And there was at the time, I think it was professional, called the Philadelphia Charge, and I do remember going to watch those girls play, and I met some of them, and I was just obsessed with all of them, but it wasn't in your face, it wasn't like sports today, so it still just didn't seem like something I could do. I was on every club team. I played, my sister was older, so I played with her. I was just playing with older kids forever. I had to get really good with my feet because my brother and sister were faster and stronger and just beating me up all the time. And I think my passion really came from the fact that soccer made me comfortable and it was a way to express myself. My brother and sister were very gifted academically, and me not so much when I was younger. And so it was kind of a way where I could shine and have a voice without I was very quiet, so I didn't have to speak too much, but when I was playing soccer, it just kind of spoke for me, and people noticed me, and it just kind of fueled my fire. I was part of the Olympic development program, which ODP, the way it works is there's a state team, a regional team, and a national team. So you try out for your state, and they choose, 30 or so girls from Pennsylvania, and then you try out with the Region 1, which is 12 states on the East Coast, and they choose another 30 girls from that, and then from that they choose 10 or so to go to the national team. And this program I think starts at age 12, but I was playing by the time I was 10. I was with this Olympic development program. And again, I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't realize until later that it meant it was developing me for the Olympics. But yeah, I just didn't understand. But I just played because I loved it.
Right.
And I played that for like 8 years maybe, and made the state team and the regional team every year, but it just never made that final step to the national team,
Right.
Which is okay.
So that passion, that exposure, it really set the pace for where you were going from a young age. What about the adversity that you had to overcome then along the way as well?
Yeah, so there's a lot of that. The first big stepping stone for me was when I was 13, moving to central Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Great place, but not as much soccer and not at the same level that there was on the East Coast. So that was tough. I played here and I had a lot of fun, but I could tell that I was kind of declining and I wasn't at the level I needed to be at. So what I had to do was join a team from the east side of Pennsylvania. So I joined this club called Hershey Attack, and it's actually funny because before we moved, I asked my mom if I could join the team, and she said no because it was too far. It was like 40 minutes. And then when I moved here, I joined, and it was a 3-hour drive to practice. So I was leaving school early. Like, thank goodness my principal was like okay with what I was doing. But I would leave school early, go train, get home at midnight, and then have to go to school again the next morning. And it was a test, to see how much I actually loved soccer.
Absolutely.
But I stuck with it, and I played high school soccer to kind of keep the fun, whereas Hershey was more business. It was like you were going to get a scholarship, you were going to fly to Vegas this weekend, California next weekend. You're all over the place. By the time I was 16, I was driving myself 3 hours,
Right.
and it was tough. And also a year into that, I got really sick. I'm positive a lot of it was stress. I was just doing a lot, but I got really sick. I lost a whole bunch of weight, lost a lot of hair, and to the point where my friends were noticing. I had 15-year-old friends being like, "Where's your hair?" And I'm like, "I don't know." It was really horrible, and it was to the point where if I would move faster than a walk, I would get a debilitating side cramp, and it just did not work. And we went for about a year. I was getting a whole bunch of diagnoses, but nothing was right. We went for about a year before we came up with a very short-term solution, which was to just hydrate a lot. And I had to drink 64 ounces of Gatorade before I would work out, and I hated Gatorade, and that was just at the time horrible. And along with that, my sister, who I'd played with my entire life, suffered too many concussions, and it was in 2006, when people really didn't know about the concussions and the side effects. And we just all of a sudden noticed after one game that she was falling asleep, and they took her to the hospital, and she kind of just stayed in her bed for the next 3 years of my high school career. And that was really tough because I just kind of had this internal battle of how am I supposed to keep playing when my sister can't even go to school anymore.
Right.
But there was also something inside of me that wanted to play for her.
Right.
But it was hard, and I had to keep going to school, keep driving to Hershey, keep flying to Las Vegas, keep doing all these things. And it was the big still one of the biggest, probably the biggest test of my life, to see how much I love soccer.
Right.
But I stuck with it. I knew I had to. And luckily I did get recruited to play at James Madison.
Yep.
Which was amazing. At the time when I got recruited, they had just went to the Sweet 16, so they were a top 20 team in the country. I signed with them actually right before I got sick, which was a little bit of a blessing, but also I felt bad because it seemed not great the next time my coach watched me play. But I owe so much to my coach because he was so patient with me. Oh my gosh, I got to college, and my whole my freshman year, maybe my first 2 years, I didn't even train. I just played in games because I was so sick, and my coach let me do that. And
so you were able to play through college, even still with dealing with and battling this sickness.
Yeah, I think I went 10 years before I figured out what was wrong with me, and so I could start to fix it. So I played my whole college career like that. Well, the first 3 years for sure. And so my freshman year, I was so sick. I didn't run a single fitness test. I came in and I was just I'm sorry, I can't do it. But I would just tough it out for games. And luckily my coach was understanding. My teammates didn't love it. but I got to play, and yeah, I would kind of just like throw up after my games, and like just be sick, and then do it all again like the next game. And yeah, so I did that my freshman year, and like I played well. I did well for what I was going through, and then my sophomore year was another very big adversity moment because my coach told me that I was going to get looked at to go to the U20 World Cup.
Okay.
So like the national team finally was like calling me, but like I don't know why because I was like a mess, but whatever. But then the next day after he told me that, I got injured and I was out for 18 months.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. So that was hard. And obviously that 18 months, like I had like with my sicknesses and my injuries, like I had missed a lot of development. Like it wasn't like until like up to 13 I was training every single day.
Right.
Then I got sick and I was like just going through the motions. And I like during that 18 months though, I didn't even touch a ball. I was like, I'm done. Like I was just like depressed, obviously. Like we do, like athletes, like when you have a big injury, like you don't really know what to do. And like it wasn't like ACL's horrible. Like it wasn't that. It was like I had like an unknown injury. It was in my hamstring, and like no one could figure it out again. I was like a medical marvel, and I was just like I was going to all these doctors, and no one could figure it out for about a year and a half. And then finally, I went to Boston because they're like, we can try to help you, and they realized it was my back that was like causing my hamstring to be in pain.
Yeah.
And so a year and a half later, I had a diagnosis, and I had rehab for 3 months, and I was back playing.
Oh my word.
Yeah, which was amazing. It was amazing. But that time, like, God, like every single day, I was like, I'm quitting.
Yeah.
Every day.
I can only imagine the thought of wanting to give up on that. So how many years then did you spend at JMU?
So I did 4.5.
Okay.
So I got hurt at the beginning of my sophomore year, but I played my whole sophomore year. And then my junior year, I was still hurt, so I redshirted my junior year.
Okay.
And then I finally came back like spring of my junior year, trained, went through a lot to get back, and then I played the next year, and it was fine. It was like, it wasn't great. Like I wasn't fit. I had a lot to do, and then I wasn't as sick, but I still didn't feel good, and then. One day, I don't even know how I found this. I think my roommate actually showed me this YouTube video of this woman who had MS, multiple sclerosis, and she healed herself by like eating vegetables.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I was like, I don't know what I have, but like she was like wheelchair bound and then healed herself. I'm like, if she can do it, I can do it.
Right.
So before my 5th year, I like completely changed my whole diet, which no one had ever suggested before.
Yeah.
And so I like started, I stopped eating gluten, like I stopped eating dairy. I just like really like, I ate like just meat and vegetables, and it wasn't like, probably wasn't healthy, but like I was trying to get rid of everything.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And the summer before my 5th year, I played for a team in Washington, D.C. with one of my teammates at JMU. She convinced me to try. And it was a reserve team for the professional Washington Spirit. And this summer was the first time that, like, first of all, I was healthy. Like, I was working out. I was, like, healthy. I was playing. And it was the first time I was playing, like, at a really high level with, like, teammates were, like, from Duke and, like, all these really good schools where, like, you just never really thought about.
Right.
And I was good, and I was getting called up to train with the professional team, and it was like these girls from the national team, and I was playing with them, and I was doing well, and just like nothing could get me down because I felt good, like I felt healthy, and I got like every award. Like I was nominated for like Rookie of the Year, Defender of the Year. Like I made all these like best 11 and all this stuff, and I was like, oh. Like maybe I can do, like maybe I'm good. Yeah. I didn't even know because I hadn't gotten to play since I was 13.
Started getting that confidence back then.
Exactly, awesome. Yeah. And then I played my 5th year. I played my 5th year at center back, which is the first time I'd ever played center back. That's what we needed at the time. And it was the first season of my JMU career where I trained at every practice and I played in every game.
Yeah.
It was the first time. And I got like every award. I hadn't gotten a single award before, and I got every single one because I was finally like out there playing.
Yeah.
And it was just very validating.
Absolutely.
And
all
finally,
the hard work.
Finally, like I felt like I had literally lost like 6 years of because I mean, when I was 9, I was training every day. I
Yeah.
would have been doing that at 18, obviously,
Right.
had I been up to it. But yeah, so that was great, and then I ended up getting drafted after that year to play professionally,
Yeah.
and I was just blown away because I didn't know, I didn't know I could do it. And
So 2 teams here in the U.S. And what were those teams?
I got drafted to the Boston Breakers, so I played 1 season there, and then I went to Oregon and played for the Portland Thorns the next year.
Unreal.
Yeah.
After all that diversity, but all that work obviously paid off.
Yeah.
But then it didn't stop there. You ended up playing for a team in Sweden. And then also a team in Iceland.
Iceland, yeah.
What were those experiences like? Just to be in those different environments?
It was so cool. I mean, it was hard too, I'm not gonna lie. I went to Sweden like in the end of the year. So I played at Portland, and then that was the Olympics year, and my teammates were in the Olympics. And then when like they returned, like our left back for Portland was the national team left back. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna play anymore. So she came back, so I went to Sweden, so I could get more playing time. And that was hard. That was the first time living in Europe, and first time like not hearing English when playing. Just every little thing was different. Like they pumped up the soccer balls way more, so my touch was different.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what? I was like, this is so weird. Like the way they defended was the exact opposite than we do in America. Like we force them one way, they force the exact opposite way. And I was in training, and like no one told me this because they didn't think I needed to know that. And I was like, why are you forcing her that way? They're like, that's how we do it here. And I was like, oh shoot. Like I've got some learning to do. So it's just like everything was different. But at the end of the day, it was still soccer, and like I was in Europe, and I was playing. I was getting paid like to play the sport, and like I mean, I learned a lot about myself too.
Right, dream come true.
A dream come true, yeah.
So as far as your final play, I know that when we were talking before, you had mentioned that you just ended your career in Iceland back in November. So obviously that's fresh in your mind, but a more defining one. Can you go ahead and illustrate the final play?
Yeah, so the most like really defining final play I have was at JMU. It was my 5th year, and we were in the last game of the regular season, and we had already qualified for playoffs, but if we won this game, we had the chance to host the playoffs, like depending on what the other team did. So it was overtime of this game, and like the way we played back then, it was Friday, Sunday, so like every game on Sunday you're always like wicked tired, like you haven't fully recovered. But it was a Sunday game, and we were way better than this team, and they knew it, so they were just like playing defense, like one of those really frustrating games, and it goes into overtime, and my teammate draws a foul in the box, so we have a penalty kick, and it's also senior day, so it's like my potentially last ever game on my home field, senior day, penalty kick in overtime. And like I hadn't taken a penalty kick like since maybe high school. But my coach just like, Lofty, like you're up. I was like, okay. So it's literally overtime and like golden goal, so if I score it's done. And I score. So it was, and the other team ended up winning, so we didn't host the playoffs, so it ended up being my final touch ever on like JMU field. So I get to go back to that field and be like, yeah, my last touch ever on this field was a goal. And it was just like, I wouldn't even like walk on the field for like the next like 2 years when I'd go back. I'm like, I'm not touching it, because like I scored a goal on my last touch.
So what was the emotion like, both there and in November, being your final play, and when did that hit you?
Yeah, so the one at JMU, like there's pictures of it everywhere. Like I scored, and then I like jumped in my teammates' arms and just like held my hands up and like looked at the sky, and it was just kind of this moment of like, I had been through so much, like at JMU, like, and not to mention like how many chances my coach had given me, and like it paid off like my last year. Like, and any other coach would have been like, are you kidding me? Like, go home. Like, you haven't even run a fitness test in 4 years. But like my coach was so patient, so understanding, and just like had so much confidence in me and trust in me, and called me for that penalty kick on like the biggest play of like this season almost, you know. And so that moment was just like kind of everything I had been through. It was just like, you know, it was okay.
Definitely validation.
Definitely validating.
So as far as the transition from being a soccer player up until that point, how much of your identity was in a soccer player, as a soccer player?
Basically all of it,
Yeah.
which is not healthy, obviously, and was a huge problem because I almost lost it so many times. But I think just the fact that I got to play 4 more years professionally, and I felt like that was just kind of the reward for everything I stuck through, and just kind of like getting some of those years back that I just completely lost, that were just kind of taken from me.
Right.
So just so thankful for that. And I think that 4 years really helped me start my transition. Like a lot of college athletes, it's a problem. Like they go through depression when the sport's taken from them, and like I kind of just had that for years, because every day I'm like, I don't think I can play anymore,
Right.
So like this transition period of like being healthy and playing with like the world's best players, like I learned from that my identity wasn't there because I kind of already lost it, And then I just had this really nice like goodbye with soccer that was just these amazing, incredible experiences, and I got to end it on my own terms. And I'm definitely still transitioning, but it was so much more peaceful. Because I got to do all these amazing experiences, and yeah, I didn't know for sure in November that was my last game, but I felt a lot of peace at the end of this season, and I kind of had a feeling that it was gonna be my last one. Like I had told people before that season started, like I think this is my last one. I don't know why I was saying that, but it just felt right. And then I made the decision like in December. Like I had finished my season, I think end of October, and then I actually like backpacked, like traveled for like 8 weeks straight. And just had like the most incredible time, and like met all these new people, and like learned more about myself too. And that was really like, okay, I'm ready to be myself and like to move on from this sport. So it was just like honestly the most peaceful ending that it could have been. Yeah.
So obviously that transition is still in progress. So what is it that you're going to be doing now?
Actually I'm really excited for it. And this idea actually came about, I was in Indonesia, and I met these guys from Germany, and they were really cool, and we aligned very well, and I had started meditating to help deal with like the stress and anxiety and like everything I had gone through. And I used it for my athletic career, and it really changed like my confidence, like everything about the way I played and my life. And I was like talking to these guys about it, and they're like, oh, you know that like the German national team, who are like powerhouses, like have a meditation coach? And I'm like, I didn't know that. Like, tell me more. And they're like, yeah, like you should do that. And so I literally like told these guys, I'm like, thank you. Like, you are so right, because I was also studying online to be like a health coach. But I wanted something more like not so vague. I wanted something more with like more purpose. And so I was just like, yeah, why am I not doing this? Like I'm gonna teach meditation to athletes.
So what is the name of the company then?
My company is called Meditation by Sam Limited. And my goal is to meet athletes and like tell them a little bit about me, introduce them to meditating, and then I'm actually creating a meditation product. It's not out yet, but it's going to be specifically designed for athletes. And then they can use this course and like study and learn and like practice and like talk to me and learn. And yeah, I'm really excited, because I think if I had like meditation back when I was in high school, like going through all this like sickness, injury, like my sister, I would have dealt a lot better. So I really hope that I can help some younger kids.
Awesome. We'll make sure to have that link below also, so that you can check out the website as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And then as far as, I guess one more question. If you could go back and give yourself a younger you some advice, what would that look like?
Some advice to younger me.
To help you, through those adverse years.
Yeah, if people ask me that, and I'm still trying to think of an answer, because like you can always say to someone like, there's going to be adversity, but like until it smacks you in the face, like you don't really understand it. You know what I mean? But from that, like I learned so much. Like I just learned to almost like expect adversity. I'm not like a pessimist at all, but like I'm prepared for adversity. And like I've learned how to be good at something, how to be elite, and I know what that takes now. And so I think if I could give myself advice, I would just prepare myself for like what was to come. Like I would like tell my little Sam, like, it's gonna be okay. Like,
Yeah.
you know, this isn't the end of it, but like,
And obviously you did play at that elite level. What would you say would be the number one attribute and the number one thing that you learned through soccer and through life that got you to where you were?
you just have to have passion.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fake it.
Yeah.
You cannot, like, to be the best at something or to be the best version of yourself, it's every day. And I know that, like, so much to my core now that I'm just like, you know, like, I want to learn Spanish, but I'm like, do I really want to learn Spanish? Because I don't feel like doing it every day.
Yeah.
So, like, no, like, I know what it takes to be good at something now, and it's passion.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, just give up.
Absolutely.
Really.
Yeah. Well, or find it.
Or don't give up, but like, set your expectations right.
Yeah.
Like, just have fun.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate it.
Thanks.
And also, I hope everyone enjoyed the content. If you do, please like and subscribe below. Additionally, check out that website. And remember, whatever it is that you do today, approach it with the mindset of, is this my final play? Thanks a lot.